What's up, YouTube? Hi, it's me again. I just want to first put up the volume to make sure that I have it, excuse me, I have it up on the highest volume. And I also want to apologize. I knew that I was supposed to be doing this video like maybe a month ago, but I haven't. We were on summer vacation. It's summer, yeah. And yeah, I just really haven't had the chance to sit down and record because I didn't have my equipment. I didn't take the computer with me. Um, so anyway, we're back and everybody's off to work and school, so I have all the time for myself, so I can do this without being interrupted. And I did make some notes while I was on vacation on the on this video. We're gonna, yeah, exactly. I made some notes on this video, or what I wanted to talk about on this video, because I know the last time we were going to talk about the ideal classroom and common misconceptions in teaching environment. And I know if you're a teacher who's been teaching for more than a year, I mean, these are things that you really should know anyway, but just so that I can cover this, if you have to make a report or whatever reason, I'm going to say them anyway. I won't assume that, if you're a teacher watching this video, then you know this. Maybe you might not have heard it said this way or whatever. So common misconceptions about teaching environment that include socioeconomic standings. When I talk about socioeconomic standings or socioeconomic background, I'm actually talking about where the student is coming from as it pertains to what are their ethics. What are the ethics is probably not the best word, but how do they feel? Where are they coming from? What are some of the things that are of concern to them that you as a teacher may overlook? And if you were a student, how is your learning different from the other students in your class, or why are they different based on your economic background, your exposure to certain different types of culture, religion, best practices that you may have in or outside of your house, how you interact with people, and how you interact with your society? What do you think affects your ability to learn, or what are some of the things that you may not agree or disagree on when it comes to how you learn and how you teach? These things, I mean, I could speak to it from a European perspective. I could speak to it from a Central American / Caribbean perspective. I'm not going to do that. That's a good idea. Comment below if you want to see a video on those specific classroom settings, because they both have really different dynamics. Maybe I'll mention a few of them in this video. But I first want to just go over like the general principles of misconceptions. And one of those things is, I know if you're a teacher teaching in a very advanced setting and you do workshops all the time and you've been exposed to a lot of different styles of teaching, you already know that all learning is not only taking place inside the classroom. You know that learning is taking place all the time. You know that. Some people just, maybe I would say, I was talking to a teacher the other day and they said that, well, I never really thought about it like that. When I think of learning, I think of a teacher teaching a student. But it might be really an obvious oversight that learning is always taking place. And the younger you are, the more your learning is happening all the time. So, yeah, learning is always taking place every time, everywhere. Your learning ability is your learning ability, or your learning on a whole, is taking place in your environment. So environment is really important for what kind of learning, how you receive your learning, and how much you learn. Because we're all equipped with something that I learned about in neuroscience called junk genes. And these genes are actually behavioral genes that are turned on and off by our environment. So you already have them inside of you, but I'm sorry. If you are in an environment where you are outside, a switch may go on or off, like, ooh, we're outside, I'm interested, I'm being stimulated in a certain way that is causing more intrigue into learning. And there's a lot of scientific backing on that. You could look up or Google junk genes. Um, so we're starting to learn now in the learning environment that environment influences more than we uh, knew before when it comes to how much you take in and how much you change, and even behavior. So when we're talking about socializing and socioeconomic backgrounds and socioeconomic standings, we're actually talking a lot about common misconceptions about society and what we believe is right or wrong when it comes to cognition. So I hope that was quite a mouthful. Homework makes for good practice. I am going to step on a lot of toes right now, and it may come as a shock to some of you that I don't believe in homework. I don't think that it's necessary. I think I said this before. Um, if I haven't, I'm gonna say it again. I don't believe in homework. If the student is not getting it inside the classroom, then something has happened or has not happened. Why they are not getting it. I don't think that doing homework helps in the sense that if you go home and practice something that you didn't get in the classroom, it's gonna it assumes that there will be someone there equally as competent as the student to help the student in the continuous learning process. The student may or may not figure out the problem or may write the task better than they did in the classroom for whatever reason, but it does not necessarily mean that it is because they had more practice with it at home. It might mean that something in the environment has changed, which has allowed the student more cognitive ability than they had in the classroom. That is really, really important to grasp in terms of how you teach, because that means that something in the classroom needs to be done or not done in order for the student to be able to focus more and get it more while you are there administrating that learning process or facilitating that learning process. So homework is not necessarily bad, but it is not necessarily necessary. So I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but I'm here to tell you I come from 4 generations of teachers, and my grandmother would actually say a lot of the time, like, she doesn't believe in homework. She believes in using songs or using art. And this is like, we were talking about somebody from the 1940s. Okay, so this was always considered a best practice in the English. When I say English, I mean British English school system that we use in Central America and in the Caribbean, specifically Commonwealth style of teaching that she was an administrator in. And she just always said to me, like, I don't believe in giving kids homework. I don't think that that makes any sense, and I don't think that it's really effective all the time. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. As a disclaimer, I'm not saying that homework is bad. I'm just saying that we really need to revisit how effective it is in terms of the repetitiveness of, how is repetition really something that is important for learning. Repetition is not necessarily hand in hand with practicing it at home, because you don't know if the kids, like I said, what environment are they going back into, or what society are they coming from that is different from what's happening at home. That is where the learning needs to be focused on. Do they have light, electricity? Do they have other kids? Are their parents literate? These are some of the issues that I didn't want to get too detailed into in this video, but these are some of the things that as a teacher you need to be cognitive of when you're giving homework. I had one teacher, I'm getting into it. I had one teacher give my daughter, at the time she was 10 years old, give my daughter an assignment that required her to do historical research online. And this was not while we were in Europe. This was while we were in Belize. And I thought that was, I wasn't thinking about her access to the internet. I was thinking about her other classmates who come from the village, who probably have slow internet or no internet, who probably don't even have internet cafes, for example, in their village. And I just thought that I didn't think that that was something that could have, um, that was necessary in terms of how do you do effective research for a historical project. I think that she should have taken that into consideration. As a side note, so the next point would be students' motivation for learning are pretty much the same. That's another common misconception that I know a lot of people are starting to get hip to knowing is a misconception. Um, some people are more visual. Everybody knows that, you know, we're more, some people are more visual than others, some people are more auditive than others. And so learning is very, very specific, student by student. Um, Hmm. Maximize, to counteract that, I would say maximizing learning as a facilitator should be done, um, teaching the student how they learn, so making them a little bit more self-aware, um, making them understand what their learning style is and teaching them how to branch off and really improve and expand the way they learn in using different methodologies. So just because, for example, you are a visual learner, it doesn't mean that you can't do auditive learning. Auditive, is auditive a word? I don't know. Anyway, so if you are someone that is very visual, it doesn't mean that you can't use um, other methodologies of learning, because in improving this skill, you actually improve your cognition, you actually improve your your brain usage, and that helps you to be more effective in understanding what learning means for you. Um, I really would like to get more into the science of that, but I won't, because I'm going to start to break all of this down in the next couple of videos, and I will not promise a date because that's going to get me into trouble. Um, what worked in one classroom can work in any classroom. While this while this may be true, and I made some notes on this, I realize that I'm really going okay. I'm really going over time here. Um, so what works in one classroom may work in or can work in any classroom. I am a big fan of the classroom dynamic that pertains to culture. Classrooms often have culture, and you find this more and more as you're dealing with older students, that they have developed a culture among themselves, especially if you're dealing with a system that's set up where they spend the entire day together and the teachers come inside the classroom. You have the class clown, the class bully, the do it the what's the word? Do the right thing kid. You have the nerd, whatever. And these are all stereotypical names that people use to brand and name students. So, and then that kind of starts to fade when you're getting into university setting, or at least I would hope so. And there were a lot of studies that were done talking about how you should probably separate the boys from the girls when it comes to having them a certain classroom ages. I don't believe in that either, but I will say that classrooms do have culture, and that is something as a teacher you have to consider when you're coming in for a class. And this is really important for behavioral issues. I did one time teach at a school where there was one class that was considered the problem class, and I had discovered again that that class had two deaths. Two students died in that class in the school. I think, you know, like they died right there in front of everybody. And so this class that had then later become the problem class, No one had ever considered counseling that class as a whole, as trying to figure out how, or trying to deal with how they were handling this passing away the passing away of these two students from the classroom. And I don't know if they had ever done that, but I did suggest to the principal at the time that maybe this class needs some sort of a healing process. So those are socioeconomic standpoints that we need to consider as teachers, to really, really think about when we're dealing with where students are coming from in terms of their learning capacity, ability, and motivation. I really, really want to apologize again for making this video a little bit long and for taking so long to make this video. Please like and comment below and share with your friends, because I want to know what you guys think.